Well, hello, virtual educators. This is Kellie Alston once again, the facilitator of the LTVD Mini-Course. And in this video, we're going to briefly go through the first 3 steps of the LTVD. So in step 1, your students are going to be logging in, okay? And the activity here, you're going to see going down the middle and the amount of time that I suggest that you allot for this. Now, this 5 minutes of time should be 5 minutes prior to when your class is supposed to start. So say, for example, my classes start at 6:30 in the evening. So students are expected to log in by 6:25. I encourage them to get there before that, but that's the latest. So between 6:25 and 6:30 they should be logging in. Now it says students are logged into the group conference room ready to begin. Now you may call this room whatever you want. You can call it a course room, a conference room, you can call it a virtual classroom. Blackboard Collaborate in the newest version calls it a course room. So up here, whatever the name of your group is going to be, it's going to be up here. So I give my groups names. For example, I might have a group called Group 1, Group 2, Group 3, or you could do color names, or you can do the curriculum facilitators, the reading specialists. If it's my literacy class, I give them those types of names for their groups. You could even do an activity where they come up with their own group name. But whatever the case may be, the name of the group would be up here at the top, and they would see that when they log in. Now, some of these tips that I'm going to teach you are the things that you're going to learn when you enroll in the LTVD course. In this mini course, I can't go into everything I've learned over the past almost over a decade implementing this strategy. But I will give you some of the nuggets right here just so that you understand what you're looking at. Now, I teach my students that the first person to enter the virtual classroom, which will pretend like it's me, but it's not me. I'm always going to be in there because I'm the instructor. I'm always logged in to all of the groups, and I have the groups no larger than 6, but the smaller the group, the better. You really don't want to go over 4 people in a group. If you have to push it to 5, you can, but 4 is a nice manageable number because they're going to get really involved in these discussions, and when there's too many people in a virtual setting, it can become chaotic, or not really chaotic, I shouldn't say that, but kind of drawn out. So pretending that I'm the first person to enter the room, then I posted this information. So I teach them whatever article that they're going to be discussing, and for the purpose of the rest of this course, I'm just going to refer to articles or textbook chapters. So if this is a textbook chapter or an article that they're going to be reading, that person posts it on the whiteboard. That person posts the group roles here on the whiteboard as well. And that is because I want students that enter the session to volunteer for these roles. So as they come into the session, they're going to volunteer for group leader, timekeeper, reporter, reflector, and publisher. You will learn what these roles are about in another lesson. Okay, but that's what we mean by logging in. Now, if you see here, it tells you what time that I logged in, what time I joined the room, and then my students have all access to every video permission, chat permission, so they can share themselves with their webcam, and we can actually see their faces if that's what you want them to do. I do not require that in my Learning Through this Virtual Discussion courses. We only use the audio because we focus on what's going on here on this whiteboard more so than looking at everybody. All right, so let's go back to the steps. So the group leader is going to implement the roll call and ensure that all microphones are working and all members are physically present. So back to the virtual classroom, all the names of all the group members would be here. So the group leader would call on each person, Kelly, and I would say here, or whatever you want them to say, okay? So they're going to say, good evening, everybody, or whatever, and they're going to go through each person's name to make sure they're actually present in the virtual classroom, because just because you're logged in doesn't mean that you're not in the kitchen cooking dinner, or that you're not on Facebook somewhere not paying attention. So we go through the roll call in that beginning step. All right, the next step is the group leader specifies the article or chapter that will be discussed and reviews the group roles for the evening. So just for clarity, the group leader says tonight we're going to be discussing cooperative learning by Richard Felder and Rebecca Brent. And the group, I am the group leader. The timekeeper is this person, and goes through the names of all the people that have signed up. The way people sign up is when they come in here like this. Let's say I want it to be the reporter, and I could just write reporter here. I could just type it there, and the first person who came in the session could type it, or they could also, when you come into the session, they could just go ahead and type their name here to be reporter. It depends on how you train them, okay? I train them that the person who comes in the session, who's doing this board, does this, but in some groups, when they come in, they actually, post it up here, okay? I like to see it in the chat box and then transfer it over to here, because when I have more than one group, I can come in and scroll up and see what has transpired during the session. So I'm kind of a chat box, then whiteboard type of girl. But it's not that serious, whichever way that works best for you. All right, the next step is vocabulary. So in this particular step, the group members who have completed a study template prior to class. So the individual accountability piece that we have here is that the students complete a study template with all of these steps in them, except for, of course, logging in. But the study template, they work on that before they come to class. Now, I teach you more about that in the actual LTVD course, but I just wanted you to know that they do prepare all of this before they come to class. So on that study template, they are asked to choose the terms from the article or the textbook chapter that stood out to them, or choose the terms that were emphasized by the author. Okay, and we talk about that through italics, over in the margins, just different places under images, anywhere where they feel like these terms, a lot of times in the chapters, at the beginning of each chapter, it'll tell you what the key terms are. So they're going to choose, 2 to 3, 4 of those terms, just depends on the length of the article. And every student is different. So there's not a right or wrong to this. So when they choose the term, they have to define the term, and then they have to also give a real life example, because that shows that they understand the meaning of the term. So when they're here in the session, what they're going to do is press their talk button, and they're going to share, and I have them usually to go in order because it just makes it seamless. So they either start from the bottom of the chat box and go up, or from the top of the chat box and go down, and then they share one term at a time, and the sequence is share the term, define the term, and then give a real life example. Once they do that, they copy and paste that into this chat box right here. Okay, so that everyone can see it, because we have auditory learners and we have visual learners, and so we want to make sure that we meet all those needs of all the different types of learners in the session. So we always speak first and we post in the chat box second. We speak first and we post second. So once everybody has done that, everybody's given one term, they can go back in another round and give more terms. Some of the terms that you have will have already been covered, like some of the terms if I was a student, after we go through everybody in the group, go through 4 people, or 4 other people in the group, then they may have already covered some of the terms that I chose. So if I don't have another one, that's absolutely fine. Okay, so again, there's no right or wrong or a certain amount of terms that they have to cover. All right, next, the third step is the statement of the author's main message. As I mentioned, they have already written their idea of what the main message is. So I teach them to think about, because this seems to be a really difficult area for many of college students. So what I teach them is to think about the PSA that they see on television, where the woman has started smoking cigarettes, I believe, when she was 19, and she got cancer and has like a voice box, and she's talking about her having to use this voice box, but nowhere in that PDA do they ever say don't smoke. Okay, that is what they want you to extract. That is what they want you to ascertain from watching that PFA. I said PDA. From that PFA. That PDA is public display of affection, so that's not what we're talking about. But the public service announcement, here we go. PSA. My goodness. All right, so from that PSA, they are able to extract the main idea, but the PSA doesn't actually say that. So oftentimes when they're reading, they have a difficult time with pulling out that main idea or that main message. And so I have them to think about, what is it this author, once you close this article, book, or walked away from this article, what was the main concept that this author wanted you to walk away with? Out of everything that he or she said or they said, what was the main idea? So they work on that, and as they do this LTVD process, they become better and better at it. So they already come together with their own version of the main idea. After everyone shares, the group drafts a main idea message that fully depicts what they agree to be the best way to convey the author's main message. So over here, they go in order again. Everyone speaks the main message, and then they type it in the chat. And so then they're able to look at each other's main messages and come up with one that they feel truly expresses what they think is the main idea of the content that they have read. So those are the first 3 steps of the LTVD, and I will see you in the next video.